This is 20 Minutes of Impact from the United States Energy Association Power Sector Podcast, sponsored by Schneider Electric. I'm Herman K. Trabisch. I've covered the power sector since 2006, and I currently report for Utility Dive. In this episode of the podcast, recorded live at Schneider Electric's 2025 Innovation Summit, we're going to talk with Ben Liu, Executive Vice President of the Power Products Division of Schneider Electric's energy management business. Ben's going to describe his concept of Electricity 4.0, which he has said is when electric meets digital. In addition to Ben's work on Schneider Electric's cutting-edge tools for energy management, he's a board member of Schneider Electric India, a member of the board of directors of Georgia Tech Global, and a member of the Standards and Conformity Assessment Policy Committee of the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. That's important, and we'll get to why in a minute. But starting off, Ben, you've described Electricity 4.0 as when electric meets digital. Can you make that a little bit more concrete? It's an exciting idea, but exactly what's Schneider Electric doing already to improve the power system moving toward Electricity 4.0, and how is that work ultimately going to change the power system?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, Herman, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here at our Innovation Summit, and together we're with 2,500 partners, customers, suppliers, and friends to really celebrate our new company mission. And you talk about Electricity 4.0, this is actually at the very core of our company vision. Because when we look at the world, right, there's a few mega trends that is happening. So you have the electrification that's happening. Okay, the percentage of the electricity as the energy use is going from 20% to almost the 50% in the next 20 plus years. And at the same time, everything is getting digitalized. Okay, so with electricity, with digitalization, we're able to electrify, automate, and digitalize for the industry, businesses, and for homes. Okay, so now for Schneider Electric, as you hear the name electric, right? Electrification is really at the core of the company. Okay, now where I'm coming from is the electrical products. So we're making all of the products from all different kind of circuit breakers to the electrical distribution systems, and we have other divisions which are making other type of electrical products to power the industry and buildings and utilities and so on. Now, as I said, as the technology is evolving on the semiconductors, on the chips, you see a huge growth on the digitalization. I mean, everybody's super high today about AI, data center. So you see this huge mega trend that is happening in front of our eyes. So it's not a new thing. This has been happening for many, many years. And we believe as a company, the trend of electrification and the digitalization will continue in the decades and decades to come, right? So this is why we have positioned our company as a energy tech company, energy technology partner, because we believe, right, we're here to power the different industries and different applications, but at the same time we have a mission to drive the digitalization journey.
Interesting. So some people would call it a beneficial circle. The more electricity it gets used, the more digitalization happens. The more digitalization happens, the more electricity is needed. Of course, some people would call it sort of what is it called? Ouroboros, that idea of a snake chasing its tail, but we'll hope for the best here. Did you say that electricity use has grown from 20% to 50% of, I didn't quite, could you flesh it?
So you look at the whole energy, okay, there's different kind of energy. There's electricity.
To 50%.
The percentage of the energy coming from electricity, has gone from almost 20% to almost 50% in a course of, let's say, 30 years. So going from 2020 to 2050. So this is a measure to say the world is being electrified. Okay, so this is the mega trend of electrification. It's just one way to measure. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so more and more electricity. Okay, we're going to get wonky here for a minute before we go to more about Electricity 4.0. But Schneider Electric just became the first company to apply for a UL Solutions Eco-Logo certification program. Am I saying that right? Eco-Logo?
Correct.
Okay. And this is important because things that have certification from UL, used to be called Underwriters Lab, now it's UL, are really, they are the core of what gets used in the power system, what gets used in providing electricity, because they have that certification. This new certification is for sustainable energy and industrial automation equipment. And Schneider Electric is putting forward its circuit breaker portfolio as the first to get this certification. So what does this certification mean in general, and what does it mean for Schneider Electric? And a little bit more than that, why did it start with circuit breakers? What's next? And ultimately, what's the overall objective of going after this kind of certification?
Sure, Hernan. So actually, this is one of the reasons I'm here, and we have a very exciting unveiling event together with our friends Jeff from UL Solutions.
Right.
To
we're having him on in one of our podcasts.
yeah, exactly. So together we're going to introduce very proudly Schneider being the first company in the industry to get this certification from UL to certify the sustainability design of this great product in the area of energy and industrial automation, the first one on the market. Okay. Now, so I have started going back with our vision and mission as a company. I mentioned about the electrification, I mentioned about the digitalization, but why are we doing this? We do this because we want to drive the efficiency and the sustainability for all. And this is really the mission. Now, for sustainability, it's really something that we hold a very dear part into our company. It's a part of our company DNA. Okay, to some extent, this is even about the business. Okay, now we've been working on really the front end of a lot of these technologies on the energy tech, so on and so forth. But one of the challenges the industry is facing is how do you make sure that your product, design is with sustainability by design, but also something you could measure, okay, so that you ensure you have the right reliability, the safety, sustainability for the entire life cycle of the product, from the conception all the way to the design, the use, and eventually the disposal of the product. And this is where we're super excited to work with our friends from UL Solutions, because they come up with this concept of Eco-Logo, which is the third-party independent certification that can really put endorsement of the way we design and eventually for our customers to use the technology to ensure that the sustainability is there, it's measurable. It really covers a few angles. How do you use your materials? How do you manage your manufacturing and operations, health and safety? Oh. How do you manage not only when you introduce the product, but the entire life cycle of the product?
So it's the materials that make the circuit breakers are made with minimum emissions, and the materials that the circuit breakers, when their end of life is done, they can be recycled in some way, perhaps, or have a more recyclable potential than circuit breakers that haven't been certified. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So you mentioned a few examples. Actually, this Eco-Logo program is a science-based program. It's not just we're saying this. There's many specific ways you measure. You mentioned about how do you use the materials? Like we use plastics, but a single-use plastic is something we don't want to do, right? So you measure how do you reuse the plastics, okay, the green plastics, for instance, and also how do you dispose the products at the end of the life of the product. Eventually, you look at how do you make sure you manage to reduce the carbon footprint of the entire life cycle. Now, back to your question, why do we choose the power-packed circuit breaker as the first product that we get a certification? Because first, we're very proud of our molded case circuit breakers. This is really the core of our low voltage business. And this is one area Schneider is absolutely market leader on the market. We're bigger than number 2, number 3 combined. And this represents part of our technology, which is quite advanced. So we want to demonstrate our ability to manage the efficiency, sustainability, and we really with the most advanced technology.
Interesting. Okay. It's interesting that you say that because about the measuring, because I just heard former Vice President Al Gore talking about emissions, and he's undertaken several projects where they measure emissions very specifically from power plants and from other sources. And he was saying, if you can measure it, you can manage it. If you can't measure it, you are only guessing whether you can manage it. But I want to move on to another subject. That it's the subject on everybody's mind these days, and you're in energy management, so you must be thinking about it. Everybody's talking about how do you meet load growth and protect electricity affordability. What tools is Schneider Electric using that can help meet load growth and protect? I mean, those are you have to build to meet load growth, but if you build, it drives up costs. So how do you square that circle? I shouldn't say that's a bigger question, how do you do it? What's Schneider doing to help do it?
Sure. So you look at the load growth in, let's say, U.S. as a country, right? One of the biggest growth driver for electricity use is data center industry, right? So to give you the data, right, we're talking about somewhere around 3% of electricity being used by the data centers, all kinds of data centers, okay? Typical ones and AI data centers, right? Next 5 years, by year 2030, we're looking at 3% growing to more than 10%.
Wow.
Even 12%, okay?
Quadrupling.
Yes, it's really amazing growth, right? Now you're talking about really thousands of terawatt hours of the power. You're talking about powering, like, you can power millions of homes, right? And actually, from the panel session this morning, we heard our president, North American president, talking about the situation varies by state. Take Virginia as one example. That percent is not 12%, it's 39% today. So think about, you have a huge growth of the power consumption coming from this part of industry. But don't forget, right, the buildings are still being built and homes and so on. What are we doing? So basically, we need to make everything more efficient, every single application more efficient, whether it's the industry, data center, utilities, homes, you name it. We're in all of these segments. We have all the technologies from hardware to software to the services. We can help our partners, customers, clients to make sure their use of electricity is more efficient.
Interesting. So
you reduce the use. At the same time, right, even the data center is representing almost 10% of the use of electricity by the end of this 2030, is still a small percent, okay? Now think about the building. We're having a lot of technologies from hardware to building management and controls, software systems. If you can improve the building efficiency by 10%, you can find all the power to power the growth of the data center. Oh. So that's another angle. We're really managing the mix here. So we do everything possible to drive the efficiency, sustainability in all sectors so that we can find ways to power, for the industry to power the hungry data center growth.
Just one question. Could Schneider Electric possibly invent something to capture the hot air coming out of Washington, D.C., and use it to power the data centers in Virginia? Do you think that's a possibility?
Absolutely. Okay. So now you talk about that actually, because I'm on the NEMA standard board. So we do work with our peers. We work with policymakers very closely to actively influence the policy, because we believe actually as a company, partnership is really the key for us. I mean, all the challenge we're talking about, the growth of the use of electricity and how do you get the power from the grid to the chip, is not something that one company can solve alone. So we're looking for partnerships with technology companies, with suppliers, with our partners, even with policymakers. Yeah, code and standard, for instance.
I was able to see one session this morning, and that was a key theme, partnerships across the industry. We have just a few minutes left before we finish this up, Ben, and I just want to ask you, this is an innovation summit. You talked about the UL certification. Have you seen or heard other things so far this morning at the summit that really caught your attention?
Yes, I've been to a few events like this. I'm super excited. And actually, before this job, I was the strategy leader for our energy management business. So I was involved very deeply with the preparation and forming of this event. Now, where I'm super excited is two things. Okay, there's many things, but I'm particularly impressed with two things. Number one is technology. Okay, technology is based on science. Okay, we talk science, we talk engineering, because we believe by the end of the day, we have the right technology available today to address at least the 60% of the problem already. Now we need all the partners together with the policymakers, to work together to address that problem. This is number one. Number two, it goes to the partnership. Because like I said, the one thing that differentiates the Schneider with many other companies is, partnership is really at the core of our company. And this is why our new mission says, we're energy tech company, but we want to be your energy tech partner. So we partner for technology, we partner for efficiency, we partner really for all aspects.
Okay. Well, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. The Innovation Summit is about partnerships and bringing all kinds of providers of technology together to work out these problems. And we are watching these problems unfold in real time. I want to thank you. Ben Liu, Executive Vice President of the Power Products Division of Schneider Electric's energy management business, has described how Schneider Electric is working to create Electricity 4.0, where electric meets digital, and the partnerships that are going to form there. I also want to thank our sponsor and host, Schneider Electric. And as always, I want to thank our listeners for taking the time to check out the USEA Power Sector Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with everybody you know our quest for energy transition solutions.